Welcome everybody to another episode of the Week's End Tavern, a weekly WoW news podcast. I'm Subtle, joined as always by Hando, and we got a special guest today, Riyani. Super excited to have him. How are you doing, Riyani?
I'm doing good, doing good. I got my morning cup of coffee over here and accommodating for the time zone difference.
Excellent, love it. I got my coffee as well, even though it's midnight here. So we're all sipping coffee. Love it. Um, So, for anybody who doesn't know, Riyani makes awesome WoW videos on YouTube. So, if you haven't watched him before, make sure to check him out. We'll just plug it now. We'll plug it at the end too, but it's Riyani WoW, correct? I think on
That's right.
YouTube.
That's
Okay,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's making lots of Cata content, lots of sod content. So make sure to check him out. I know a lot of people who follow me are definitely more into the Cata stuff, and Riyani's got a ton of great videos out. One of the ones I watched recently that was awesome and helped me out on my recent private server adventure was the Tolbarad rep grind one. All the things you can do to get your rep going ASAP, turbocharge that rep for Tolbarad, and get your mirror broken images for all your tanks ASAP. But yeah, first off, we're just gonna get to know Riyani a little bit. So, what's kind of like your WoW background? How long have you been playing? Like any
Mhm.
private server stuff you've been doing, and anything like that.
Yeah, I started my WoW journey all the way back in '05, and I'm born in '95, so I was just a young lad, like a lot of us playing Classic right now, when the game first came out. With that said, I've tanked for all of those years. To some extent, not as great back in the days as I maybe am now. I remember going into a or a Karazhan pug back in the days with cloth shoulders on my warrior because they had a lot of stamina on them. So you know, it was a journey for sure to get where we are today. Um, but yeah, I started probably tanking pretty properly at a high level in heroic raiding type of thing in Wrath of Lich King, and kept that going all the way up until pretty much BFA. I did a lot of Mythic Plus progression back in the days. I've been both top 10 in the world on Brewmaster Monk and Protection Paladin in BFA, so got that background. So I'm really excited about hopefully maybe getting M plus in Classic at some point, but maybe that's a topic for another time. Um, I started playing Classic, back when it released in 2019, and it was I had a blast leveling up all the way, but really didn't play a lot at level 60, and by a fluke, I kind of started playing TBC again when that was launched, and got hooked on the Classic journey again, reliving those expansions that I was a complete scrub at.
Yeah, that's
but
been one of my favorite parts about like this classic journey is kind of getting to make up for lost time, do the things you didn't get to do back in the day when, I didn't get to kill like Heroic Lich King back in like Wrath and OG Wrath, so got to do that this time, which was awesome. I didn't get to do Old War last time, so that's been key for me too, is just kind of getting to make up for, I guess, past mistakes or whatever. But
yeah, I only managed to kill on 10 man back in the days, and it was one of those epic moments where we all were dead in the throne room, and the elemental shaman anked outside, and everyone was shouting, "Come on, get it down!" And you see that Fury of Frostmourne getting cast, and what a good moment! Good moment.
that's awesome. Yeah, those are the ones that stick with you. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What about like private servers? If you, I mean, in your videos, you show a lot of like Cata private server stuff. So I assume you've
What?
played a little
No,
bit.
no. There's no
No.
private server stuff on
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah. Not at all.
No, I did play a little bit of private server back in the days when before all of this Kata, or I mean the private server, or the classic release was announced. But I never really never really stuck around for it, and it wasn't until the rumblings of a Cataclysm coming around that I started, picking up on one of the popular private servers to really get a feel for it and do some deep diving, investigative journalism type of stuff. Find out what's up.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like you've been playing WoW a long time. You definitely made it further in retail than I did. Mop was like kind of the last time I played quite a bit. So yeah,
Mm.
for me, honestly, like even if they do go to into like classic WAD and things like that, I might be interested just because I didn't do them last time. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, great though. I mean, we love more experienced voices, especially tank ones in the community. And
Yeah,
when
it's great for me to be on here because it's I've been following you for so long since I probably TBC and when the Paladin videos back in the TBC Classic. So this is probably fueling my parasocial relationship here on the internet. So this is great.
oh hell yeah, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's just such a lack of like tank content creators, so it's always great to get more, especially ones that played at like a really high level on retail and stuff too. Yeah, so awesome. We're really glad to have you. So let's just hop in. We're just gonna quickly talk about like what we've been doing this week. So Handa, we'll start with you.
Well, it's been a pretty lazy week for me. Other than reading news, I haven't been doing too much over here. My Friday run in my guild kind of fell apart. It feels like that's sort of the state that a lot of the Wrath of the Lich King guilds are in right now, where they're just kind of crumbling down and relaxing, doing other things because there's so many different mediums now in World of Warcraft. So just kind of relaxing this week. Not too much. I've been playing a little bit of SOD. I dabbled a little bit in the Cata Beta. Just the normal WoW things. That's about it for me.
Any like big changes on Catabeta that you've noticed? I know they've been pushing out quite a few updates lately.
I can't say that I've played it enough for that to happen.
Oh, okay.
I really was trying not to play because you didn't have it, so I didn't want you to feel like,
Solidarity,
yeah,
solidarity.
exactly. But I saw you dabbling in some stuff, so I was like, I'll take a look. So I messed around and just like did a lot of the quests and stuff. I did like Vashir and stuff. There were some bugs and stuff that I noticed there. So, namely, one of the quests that I did start, I couldn't even complete for like an hour or something like that until we figured it out. So, but
Okay.
that's how
Yeah,
the betas go, right? You report them, and hopefully by
exactly.
the time you get through, the devs are like, "Hey, he said this, and let's get it fixed."
That's the point, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Figure it all out. Yeah, what about you, Riyani? What have you been up to this week in WoW?
Yeah, well, I have no solidarity when it comes to the beta stuff, so I'm sorry about that. I've been
Hey,
playing
fully support
playing
that.
quite a
Fully
bit.
support that. We need people just playing it, figuring things out.
Yeah. There's a lot to figure out at the moment. It's always a interesting thing, kind of finding the balance of what stuff is beta stuff and what stuff is like actual things that we could probably expect to be a change from the original Kata release. Um, like I've been doing a bunch of experience, grinding, testing, stuff like that, where on Kata release things weren't viable, but on the beta right now they are viable. And on the release of Wrath of the Lich King, for example, there were a bunch of changes that weren't there on the release of the original Wrath of the Lich King. So it's a bit of a we're gambling a little bit, seeing what might stick around and what might not. Um, but yeah, you asked about some changes. What have we seen on the beta, and there's been quite a few changes, especially in regards to Blood Death Knight. Finally, the healing is scaling properly with Death Strike. We still don't have runic empowerment, which is kind of a bummer. But we're still smashing all the other tanks out of the water. But I'm guessing we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
Been
been
doing
hearing good things though, which is like kind of
yeah,
baffling to me because it sounds like a lot of things for Blood DK have been like broken the entire beta. But I
yeah.
keep hearing people over and over again. They're telling me how much they love Blood DK, and like they're
Mhm.
topping damage with it and everything. And I'm like, how is that happening when like none of the mechanics for them are working correctly? But I guess they're that good, right?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty funny seeing people in when people first started hitting 80, 85 on the beta, and people were starting to head into heroics. People would ask specifically for a Blood Death Knight in the trade chat, but that's with the healing not scaling, nearly as well as it should. Doing at least like maybe 30% of the healing they should be doing. Um, and not having runic empowerment, meaning that the damage output, especially in single target, is significantly hamstrung. So that's kind of fun to see. But yeah, I've been testing a bunch of professions. Got at least 3 or 4 professions maxed. Logging in every day to do jewel crafting dailies. I'm that type of guy, on live, I've been trying to get my damn tiger. It's not going too well in Solgar Up. And yeah, we got a new speed record kill in our guild on Wednesday. So that's always fun, getting a new number up there on Warcraft logs.
Yeah,
Congrats. Nice job.
yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks.
What was the exact time?
I think it was 53 minutes, so we still have some work to do to get up to the
Hey,
top 50,
yeah, that's nice though. I mean, always feels good to get the PB for sure. All right. Yeah, so for me, I mean, I've just been, kind of doing the cat prep, trying to get the last few things that are going away in pre-patch, the Raptor mount in ZG. That one's been just elusive for me. I've been farming it on like 9 characters every reset the last like month and a half. And like before that, I was, farming it the entire expansion anyway on 1 or 2 characters, but it's not dropping. So it's getting scary here. We're getting down to the wire, but that's mainly what I've been doing. And then I was checking out the new Deathwing Kata P server because I had never got into the beta, so I'm getting my Kata fix this way. Just like an accelerated server, you hit 80 in like 3 hours or 85 in like 3 hours, and all the reps are like 5x, so it's very quick. So just been doing that to, kind of get a feel for, refresh my memory on the leveling process and all that, all the gearing and everything. But man, Blood DK feels so good. It's crazy. Like just constantly like top damage, top healing and tanking. Like doesn't get better than that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. Let's get into the listener questions and comments for this week. You guys had a bunch of them again. We love that. Keep sending these in. You can do that on my Discord. Just join my Discord, and there's a channel for it, Submit Podcast Questions channel. So you can submit in there, and then we'll answer them on the show. And then, Hando, what is the email people can send questions to as well?
It is weaksendtavern@gmail.com. You're allowed to send us any questions or any feedback for the show at any point in time. Just let us know and we will get to them.
Perfect. All right. So the first one we've got, this is from Omni. This one's more of a comment. Wanted to list out my top changes, ideas, and hopes that Blizzard sees this and tries to implement them. Number 1, cross-realm rating. I did condense his stuff here a little bit. Otherwise, at least realm consolidation / balance. We already know the realm consolidation is happening at this point. I think you posted that before we found out about that. And then number 2, remove DK's server limit. So personally, these are 2 things that I would love to see. Cross realm raiding, I think, is awesome. We already have like cross realm dungeons, even walk in dungeons. A lot of people don't know this, but cross realm, you can invite people to cross realm. You guys can just walk into the same dungeon. Doesn't even have to be like an RDF queue. So, I mean, we already kind of have this. Like we don't have the rating yet, but it seems like the architecture is there to do this. So hopefully it wouldn't be too big of a deal for them to do it. And this also reduces the need for everybody to kind of be on the same server. Like you get these mega servers because like the only way you can raid is, you're on the same server with a lot of people. So this really reduces the need for everybody to just be on the same server. So I would love to see cross realm raiding. Personally, I'd like to see it taken even further and like bring the whole retail thing where you can like raid with Alliance and Horde can like raid together. But that might be too much. I don't know if the classic crowd would totally be sold on that, but for sure cross realm rating, that's got to be in. I feel like, how do you guys feel about the cross realm rating?
To a certain extent, I feel like it's a little bit icky when it comes to classic and all of these retail solutions when it comes to cross faction, cross server, and stuff like that. But with that said, we don't really play the game that way anymore. We don't play the game as an MMO in the sense of everyone has their server niche. You don't have your server enchanter like you did back in the days. The person that had it all, and you would have add on the friend list to make sure that you could go to get your your hard to get enchants like Crusader and whatnot. So honestly, I personally look at my friend list and I had some guys that I played with back in the days that are Alliance while I'm Horde. And I'm like, man, I want to play with you guys, but I don't really want to level an Alliance and gear and all of that. So I mean, I would be for it. While also being a little bit apprehensive, but yeah, I'm fine with it either way.
Fair enough.
How about the DK server limit? How do you feel about that?
Especially now in Cata when DKs are the shit, I wouldn't mind being able to play a second DK without having to create another account.
Yeah, it seems funny that we have to go through these loopholes, but when you were reminded why we have to go through those loopholes, it's because everyone wants to cheat or take a shortcut, right? Or not everyone, but there's like bots out there and stuff like that, and it's the easiest way for those gold selling sites or whatever to get their hands on more resources to get to the max level or profession to print that gold. So I don't know if they're going to remove the DK server limit situation, but I know they did down in the line in retail, so perhaps. And I think the difference after Cata, the difference between a level 1 and a 55 is much smaller, right? Because the zones are just like so much quicker in Cataclysm, so that I don't think it matters too much. Plus, there's yeah, good.
Oh, I was saying having a a DK limit might be good for someone like me that might make 3 DKs to branch out to play something else this expansion instead as an alt.
Yeah, but I think that's good to play. I mean, I think Subtle and I both have like 3 paladins. I'm sure you have many of the multiple characters. Yeah, the same character rather. I think it's good. I think it's weird that they don't. On that side of it, I think it's weird that they don't let us have those multiple characters so that we can just get better and better at it, right? Repetition is the key to becoming good at something, right? They say, 10,000 hours or whatever makes you a master at something or whatever.
Malcolm Gladwell.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if they got rid of the limit. Lately, I've been doing the free transfer thing to get more DKs. So currently, the way you get around this is, especially with the new realm consolidation stuff they just did, but basically you go on a server that has free transfers to the server you actually want your DK on. You get your DK out of the starting zone, clear the mailbox. Those are the 2 things you got to do, which, takes about an hour. And then you can free transfer it over to whatever server you wanted. The one thing is you do have to have a 55 plus character on that server already. I lucked out and I had some level 60 rogue just sitting on one of these servers from one of the other like realm consolidations. So I was able to just make a DK right away. And now I've got like 5 DKs on Fairlina just sitting there just in case I need them. But yeah, that's how you get around it right now for anybody who does want multiple DKs. I believe you can paid transfer to do it too, but there's so many free transfer options now. You shouldn't really need to do that. But yeah, if you want multiple DKs, that's how you do it at the moment. All right, so let's move on. The next one is from Ardulan. What are some tank changes or general changes you'd like to see in Kata, and which, if any, do you think are likely? You want to start on this one, Riyani? Got any thoughts on
Well,
this?
yeah, well, any anything that's likely, there's nothing. But some changes that would be nice and that would be worth considering is progressive mastery changes, maybe. The block tanks are really hamstrung by the changes that were made in 4.3 in the original Kata. When it comes to the early game, not being able to hit avoidance cap and whatnot until mid fire lengths. So if that doesn't change, then I don't see any guild running anything else than a blood DK as a tank, and with how many fights are just one tanked, and with most fights having a lot of DPS windows for tanks, you most likely see a blood DK and a feral druid in every single serious raid team. So seeing some balancing there too, maybe bring the other tanks back in line. Maybe there would be a reason to bring a prop paladin for one fight for divine sacrifice and all of that stuff, if they were stronger in relationship to bloody case. But right now there's really no reason. So that would be cool to see if anything.
Yeah, I think that would probably be a good move because for tanks in particular, like you mentioned, the end patch balancing is very much just based on having that end patch gear. So yeah, it's kind of an awkward situation early on. Personally, so I really love Prot Warrior. I just think it's fun, and I hope it's like somewhat viable, so I can play it a bit. But I'm not sure how it's gonna end up because like people were dooming on it super hard in Wrath, but like I played it all of Wrath and it was like fine. It was more of a like community stigma against it than it actually being like so bad you couldn't play it. So I don't have enough experience on Kata to know if it's that same thing where it's like a little bit worse than the other things, but there's a huge community stigma that like prevents you from playing it. I'm not sure if it's gonna be like that again, but if Prot Warrior does end up being like significantly worse than everything else, one obvious change it seems like is just they have the impending victory talent where like their devastate like procs victory rush uses. So changing that to just not be HP based, because currently it's like it only procs if the mob's like below 20%, I think it is. So just make that proc at like any percent. So give warrior like a lot more self healing through that. That's like one avenue you could go. I love the like progressive mastery idea too. I think that's great because I mean that's how they originally like balanced each of these tiers anyway. So I think that fixes some of it. But yeah, I would like to see Blizzard. I should mention also, so Czar had a similar comment. I meant to read this at the same time. I'll just read it now, but we'll kind of tie it into this. If Blizzard were to rebalance tanks for Kata, which would be unprecedented since they never touched tanks in Classic before, where they've done significant changes to smart healing as well as big changes to some DPS, how would you suggest Blizzard change/approach tank class balance in Kata? So we'll just tie that in while we're talking about this anyway. Yeah, they haven't done this before. So it would be nice to see because we've seen them do some balance changes for DPS. You mentioned like the smart heals thing too. But for tanks, we haven't seen this. It would be great if like they could do something for the tanks that like aren't considered like top tier, because like it felt bad as a warrior. Like I looked at, because like I had a good group to play with that like actually let me like play Prot Warrior, because they knew like, you know, it was really just a perception issue, not really like Prot Warriors can't tank things. So I mean, just something to like at least shift the community perspective would be awesome. Like some kind of buffs to get them a little bit closer, but right now it feels like it is just gonna be that pretty strict like blood DK feral druid meta, and that kind of feels bad because, you know, a lot of us love playing the Prot Warrior, the Prot Valley. It feels bad to just be kind of pigeonholed into just blood DK if you want to be like a main tank.
Yeah, I definitely do feel like it's much more perception driven than it is about, you know, reality based about how much weaker some of the other tanks are. But you know, with that said, I think that in Kata, if anything, we should be more comfortable with bringing tanks that aren't the absolute cream of the crop, since you have much less spiky damage when it comes to damage intake from through tanks. Like for when we went in Wrath of the Lich King, it started our ICC prog, we had a Prot Warrior that you know, when he had 0% buff, and we were struggling quite a bit with phase 1 and 2, and then he quit the guild, and we invited a Blood DK alt, and oh boy did that go much smoother. Even with way less gear. So I think now in Cataclysm, you're not gonna get one shot like you could get in Wrath of the Lich King, and honestly, you know, if you like to play a warrior, you should be able to do that. But when it comes to the high end stuff, people want to optimize, people want to play the best thing possible, and that kind of trickles down to the rest of the player base, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that hits it on the head there. We're at a state of the game where, you know, a lot of us are replaying it, or just gamers in general. They want to see, you know, like the end goal more than anything else now. So everything's like accelerated, right? You want to be the top of the top, or you want to be the best of the best. You don't want to, you know, make yourself worse in any way, or your guild in any way, right? Because you don't want to be a hindrance. So yeah, I think the progressive mastery change is like a great answer, because you don't want to see a situation where like the Feral Druid and Wrath of the Lich King got buffs changes like backwards, like, because it just doesn't feel good, right? And then same thing with like the Ret Paladin, they got the taunt, and that's the other, you know, the other way. They just never got fixed, and they were too strong, right? Which that feels good, great, sure, but you really don't want to like force it into the other way either. So I don't know if there's a solution as a developer. But hopefully there is some changes, because I'm the same way. Like, I love my Prot Paladin and stuff. I have a special like place for it in my heart. So hopefully something gives. But if not, we're all the DK train.
Yeah.
All of the meta. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. I'm really loving the icy touch spam in Wrath of the Lich King. I don't know if
riveting
I can give it up.
gameplay. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. But yeah, hopefully we get some kind of balance changes for tanks. I think it would be pretty great to have you know, more variety in tanks that are actually brought to raids. So next up, Stashy asks, what percentage of players are going into Kata versus Wrath of the Lich King from P servers versus players from retail? Who has the bigger advantage, retail, Mythic Raiders, or Kata P server players? So I mean, we don't know what the percentage is exactly, but there are far more like Wrath private servers than Kata ones. So I would assume we're just like far more, you know, Wrath private server players coming into Classic compared to what we're gonna have in Kata. As far as who has the bigger advantage, retail, Mythic Raiders, or Kata P server players, a lot of this stuff is just having experience with the fights. So Kata P server players would have the advantage if, you know, the retail players didn't like practice any of this stuff before. The retail mythic players are gonna like have a higher ceiling. They're gonna be better at the game in general, but coming in with the knowledge of exactly how to do every single fight, exactly how this version of WoW works, it's invaluable. Like you're not gonna trump that by just being way better at the game. Like having all this knowledge, that's the key. So if the retail players got that knowledge, they're gonna be way better than everybody else because their skill level is so much higher. But until they have that knowledge, they're not gonna be as good as the P server players, in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that, Riyani?
I think it could swing both ways. I feel like generally we overvalue people who have been playing private servers, for forever, because we assume that they have the game figured out. But there's this saying that old habits die hard, and when it comes to figuring out new strats and optimizing the game, retail, mythic, and players are way better than that. So for some things, absolutely, I think that the people from the private servers are going to be king, especially when it comes to optimizing their gearing strat and where to get everything, and then heading into raiding and having a solid base understanding already from the get-go is very strong. But if there is a bit of prep going into things from a retail a player, I think that like you said, the skill ceiling is way higher, and it's just a matter of when do they get better than the people from the private servers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just with like ICC, we saw just how important that like P server preparation is with like the race, because you had a lot of people don't understand like how impressive it is to do like a hour. What did Progress see? Like hour 30-minute clear right on release on 0% ICC Hero Glitch King as well. 0 webs. Like that is insanely impressive. That is like so much preparation, so much practice that like you could send Lemmet in there with like, they haven't done these raids in years and stuff. They're not going to be able to replicate that unless they practice at least a little bit. Obviously, Lemmet, if they practice it, put the work in and stuff, they would like blow that out of the water. But like the preparation is just so valuable. And some P server stuff, it doesn't carry over. Sometimes there's like, some mechanic wasn't working quite right or whatever, but generally things are pretty much the same. And then we see on PTR like what differences there are, and then the guilds get to like refine their strat there to actually match what is classic like. Did you have any thoughts on that one at all, Hando?
No, I think they're both totally valuable, and it could go either way. Like it's like you said, it's knowledge versus skill, right? And then honestly, just put 2 of those people in the same room. You got yourself a nice thing going.
Yeah, and I do want to say though, like it is knowledge versus skill, but like P server players, a lot of them, especially at the like high level, they are very skillful. We're just talking about an absurd level of skill when we're talking about like retail mythic players, like people like Echo and Lemmet, or I guess they're Liquid now. Sorry, but like this is like a level of skill that's so high that it makes like really good players look like they're terrible. Like it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but yeah, it's knowledge versus skill, but like a lot of these P server players, they are very skilled as well. It's just kind of a different level at that retail mythic. So next question, Bulgarian, really kind of a comment, kind of a question: to be BDK or not to be BDK? This is the true question of Kata. Yeah, we've kind of talked about this. Just make the blood DK right now, unless Blizzard rolls out some big changes for other tanks. If you want to main tank, be a blood DK. That's kind of it.
Go blood all the way.
Blood all the way. Ketko asks, how should a beginner tank approach Warcraft logs for reviewing mitigation, deaths, etc.? If it's too broad to cover, maybe just some key things to look for. So, I mean, there's a ton you can go into for this. I have a log just pulled up here for a quick example, but yeah, when you're looking at like tank stuff, like how you can improve, um, like so a typical thing you'll look at, like maybe you died on a fight, so you want to see like what caused that. So the number one thing you would do, you would just go to the deaths, see when you died, figure out the time you died at, and then just you can drag your cursor over to kind of snapshot that part of the log, and then from there, I mean, here you can see like what exactly killed you, but maybe you notice like you took a little more damage than you should have, like the melees were hitting a little bit harder, whatever. So then once you have like kind of the time frame you died in snapshotted there, then you can go to things like buffs, debuffs, see if you were like missing something, like check on the boss, maybe demo shout, well, not demo shout usually, but like vindication, whatever. Um, Maybe the attack power debuff fell off, that's why the boss was hitting a little bit harder. Maybe an attack speed debuff fell off, not likely, but sometimes weird things happen, especially in like 10 mans or whatever. And then yeah, you can just buffs, debuffs, check all those things. And then if you don't really find anything there, you could also go to like replay, and maybe you just weren't really getting heals, during that time. And so you could go to like replay and see like, oh, healers were like moving for a shadow trap or whatever. Like that's why you weren't getting heals, because the healers were moving, something like that. So those are just some really basic ways. There's so much you can do with logs to kind of find, more optimizations, find more information about like why you died or whatever. Another thing for like threat and stuff would be like looking at your cast per minute. So if you compare your cast per minute to like another player and theirs is like way higher, you should probably focus on making sure you're like pressing something every GCD. Maybe you aren't doing quite the rotation correctly. Maybe that's not quite right. So it's creating like gaps where you don't have anything to press. So those are just some basic things to look at, but this is like a very deep rabbit hole. You can go very far down, and the amount of information on a log is just crazy. But Riyani, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Like how to be retrospective about your gameplay, and then using the information that you gather during a fight to improve as a player. There's a ton of things to do with Warcraft logs, and I think it's great. But I think the biggest thing you can do to improve, as especially a tank, is to be very introspective and not blame external circumstances for your deaths. For example, the first thing that we tend to do when we die as a tank is to go to our death log in details and say, crap, I wasn't healed for 4 seconds. What the hell, guys? That's 2 melee attacks. I can't really survive that. But take a moment. Did I utilize my own defensives? Did I utilize my own active mitigation? Did I call for any external cooldowns? And did I give my healers appropriate time to react to that call? Recording gameplay, I think, is so much more valuable than Warcraft logs is, but I know it's also not for everyone. Going over your, in the recording, going over your UI, what are you actually looking at? How am I tracking cooldowns? Both, am I making sure as a DK that I always have Blade Barrier up? Am I actually using my Death Strike healing the way I'm supposed to? Is it within my field of vision to always have external cooldowns being tracked from my raid? And then as well, making sure that you have a solid UI that actually, in a very obvious way, lets you know whether or not you have a cooldown up. So I think using the two in combination is great. Even going into your rankings after the raid and seeing like, okay, why do I have green logs the entire raid through when it comes to healing as a blood DK? Then I'm probably doing something wrong if I'm also dying in the raid. So yeah, that's what I would recommend to get a little bit better as a tank.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect answer, is to just look, to yourself first, right? I think you covered it also to settle, I think, with Warcraft logs in particular. Just get to the website and just start clicking the buttons. You know what I mean? Like, literally just learn the infrastructure of the website, start clicking those buttons, start looking at, damage taken, take a section like Subtle said, and just dissect that just a little bit at a time. That's how most of us learned. In order to, like, for any of us to teach you how to go through logs, I think it would take more than a single podcast even. You know what I mean? I think it would take hours of footage probably to go through some of the stuff that people would want to go through. Just the same as learning some of these niche things, like being able to just train yourself to have a better UI or better plater, better WeakAuras, whatever it may be, you know what I mean, to help you out as a tank. And I think that's definitely the first step that you should take, is being able, as a beginner tank, is cleaning up your UI and doing all that stuff, and then just understanding your role in the entirety of the picture, right?
Yeah, I do love the record your gameplay tip though that Riyani mentioned. That's one I tell people all the time too, that like you can have one idea of how something went like during a boss fight or whatever, and then you rewatch it and you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't quite what happened. And like you can literally just stream to a 0 viewer Twitch channel that nobody knows about, nobody will ever find, and Twitch will just hold, your VODs for you. You don't have to worry about the storage yourself, and you can just have those, VODs to like reference back. They do expire on. It changes based on what kind of like account you have, if you're like affiliate partner and stuff, but they should last at least like a week, I think. But you can also like highlight them to keep them forever. So that's a huge recommendation, is just, if you want to get better, record your own gameplay, because like the video doesn't lie. Like when there's any question about what happened in a fight, you just go back to it. You can see, rewatch your fights. Maybe you didn't do as good as you thought you did. That happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh man, I played that so well. Then I watch it back. I'm like, okay, there's a mistake, there's a mistake, there's a mistake, there's a mistake. And then, internalize that and, try to not make that mistake next time. But yeah, recording gameplay, absolutely huge.
I'd like to add to that,
yeah.
the most people probably don't even know, but like in the most recent versions of Windows plus NVIDIA, there's also just game capture enabled on your computer that you probably don't even know about. And I think it's like base set to maybe 10 or 30 seconds. You can also change that to be like 2 minutes, right? So you can even just look back at 2 minutes ago what happened, and it doesn't take too much storage because it wipes it as it goes, like a buffering situation. So it's just, it's not too bad to do that too, and just look at your computer settings and stuff, and you can find those. I learned about that with hardcore. I was like, oh god, I got to put in a death log. Here we go, or a death video. I just got wronged. So
I think I remember that one. Was that the warrior one?
yeah, it was a ripperoni for that one.
Rip.
I did kill the mob that killed me though, so take that, mob.
His hardcore journey ended as well.
That's right.
All right, so last one we got here from Resto Magus. What is the best new CD for a raid in Kata, and why is it Spirit Link Totem? That's it right there. Spirit Link Totem is like completely busted. It is almost like an ardent defender for the group, because like while Spirit Link Totem is active, nobody can die, because it like redistributes HP like as people are taking damage, and it reduces damage taken. So it makes it so like people might get really low, but they shouldn't die. Maybe there's like some like lag to it and they could still die. I'm not sure on that, but theoretically nobody should die while Spirit Link Totem's active, which makes it insanely powerful. It's to me, it's for sure like the number one cooldown. Thoughts on that, Riyani?
Yeah, the I released the healer ranking list, and I mentioned that Spirit Link Totem is by far the best raid cooldown in the game, and I think I may have revised my thoughts on that a little bit, not necessarily because it's not strong, because it's incredibly strong, and while you theoretically can die because it takes your damage intake and then redistributes throughout the raid. So you can die, but there isn't enough spiky damage in Cataclysm to really, realistically have you die in that way. But I think it's a little bit that my retail brain is thinking about how strong Spirit Link is in expansions after Cataclysm that I may overvalue it slightly. Because there's a lot of fights where the damage intake is very steady throughout the raid where you would want to use it. There are niche use cases where it's absurdly strong, where it's by far the strongest raid cooldown in the game. But then there are other encounters where I would say that, maybe a barrier would be slightly better in this use case, or a anti-magical zone from an unholy DK would even be better as well. So I think it's situational, but overall, Spirit Link Totem is really good, really good.
I think the only drawback is that it comes attached to a shaman. Quite honestly, I don't know if that's mean to say, but I mean, I know Disc and Holy Paladins are like huge, right, in Cataclysm, and I think it becomes down to that same situation as like Blood DKs versus like Warrior Tanks and stuff. And then you have to think about like some of the other utility that those Paladins do bring, especially if you're not bringing, a prop Paladin, right? So then you get those other cooldowns through that class rather than through another role as that class.
Positive thing is that the elemental shaman is incredibly strong. So if you have a fight where you don't need Spirit Link Totem, it's very easy just to flex a rest of shaman to elemental.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's all the questions for this week. Make sure you guys send in some more for next week. These are great. Definitely get a lot of good discussion out of them. So now we're gonna move on to the news. So this is the major news stuff for this reset week of WoW. We're gonna start off with a banger here. This is what most people in this community are looking for. Cataclysm pre-patch launches April 30th. Cataclysm launches May 20th. This was a little bit earlier than it seemed like it would be, based on like their roadmap and maybe like where the beta's at and everything, but we're getting Cataclysm soon, which is exciting. This is what I've been waiting for, and we're finally getting it. In the Cata pre-patch, they mention Goblin and Worgen will be available. New race and class combos will be available. The leveling updates will be available. Changed landscape in Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms 1 through 60. Class updates, talents, spells, all that. Race class combos, archaeology, transmog collection, and updated character and gear sets. So one thing that's notably missing here, well, maybe you're aware that it probably should be missing, is flying in Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. That is listed under Cataclysm, not pre-patch. I believe this is how it was back in the day too. We didn't get the flying until the actual launch. So having archaeology with no flying in Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms, this to me just looks like it's going to create a warlock summoning meta for like archaeology. Just everybody's going to be posting up at all the dig sites, selling summons, and that might be the quickest way to get your archaeology done. But yeah, do you guys have any thoughts on this? And also they haven't really talked about the elemental invasion at all that I've seen. So there's supposed to be a whole like elemental invasion event, and then later after that, the world is supposed to change. I haven't really seen them talking about this at all, so I'm not exactly sure if that's gonna start in the pre-patch and we won't actually have the changed Azeroth until like a couple weeks into pre-patch, or exactly how they're trying to go about this. Do you have any thoughts on that, Riyani?
Seems like they're skipping it from what I can tell, which is a bit of a shame because I remember doing it back in the days and it being a quite fun experience. Could be that I was 14 years old or whatever, 15 years old when it happened, so it was more new and exciting. But with that said, kind of just release Cat already. I don't want a long pre-patch. I just want to get into the game. I think pre-patch periods are really fun, and I think that this pre-patch will also have a lot to offer. Since it's a new world that we're basically getting into. But also that you have, like you said, archaeology now without flying, and boy oh boy, that's gonna be a grind for us who are looking to get our Sin Rocks and our Thursian staffs and whatnot. I'm gonna be going to 450 archaeology in pre-patch and stacking up 200 troll fragments, and but yeah, I mean, if people are gonna be selling warlock summons, I'm gonna be buying.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
for archaeology. So I know Zinrock and all the like good epics require like 450 to find. Do you know if you actually have to have the like up to 525 trained to be able to find Zinrock, or just at 450, even if you aren't the highest, level of archaeology? I forget what the new one's called, cataclysmic or illustrious or something.
Illustrious, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I have no idea, but I think that it's just 450 skill. But I would have a hard time seeing that those would be available in pre-patch, because man, that would be quite something.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the nice things about, information travels so quickly now. That's one of the biggest changes we've seen this time around, playing through all these expansions versus like back in
Yeah.
the day. We have like discords and everything with hundreds of thousands of people. So if these are dropping, we're gonna find out about it in the first like day or two, right? Because just the sheer amount of people that are like trying to get these things, like if it's possible, we'll find out about the drops, and then if we find out they are dropping, then everybody's gonna be like grinding these in pre-patch.
Oh yeah. I
um
see even some people have suggested making multiple characters to 450 and stacking up 200 troll fragments on each character. Because it's an account
yeah,
wide bind an account weapon. So I'm not gonna do that.
that's
I would.
real sweaty. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's
gonna be
next
rough.
level.
That's gonna be rough on a place like Grobulos too, where like if there's no flying, there's also more choke points, right? And we're a PvP
Hmm.
server and we are 50-50 or close to it, right?
Oh
So
really? Hmm.
it's archaeology is going to be PvP war zones, I think, more so than anything else. I think you're
Or
going
it's
to be
gonna be
digging
a
up
thing like
battles.
in SOD where incursions during the launch, people would just run past each other because hey, I'm here to be efficient. I'm not here to have fun and PvP. I'm just gonna do my stuff and get out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true.
On
It's definitely devolved now if you haven't done them lately, but they are
Yeah. Oh,
they are PvP battlegrounds now, so they're
for sure, for sure.
On Grobulus, we definitely have some people that they won't care about archaeology at all. They're only going to be there for the PvP. So they will for sure be in STV where like most of the troll dig sites are,
Yeah.
and they're going to be just camping them. There's because I mean they just don't even care about the archaeology, I'm sure, and there's no leveling to be done yet or anything, so they're just going to
Yeah.
be they're just gonna be grief, and it's gonna be wild on Grob.
They'll be forming a wall at the entrance of Jintalor, so
Yeah.
just cleaning up anyone who comes through.
Oh god, I didn't even think about Gentle. Or yeah, for anybody who most people like don't know the name, but this is the like hinterlands troll questing area. It's that place, you know, when you get to level 50 on a character, you pick up like 5 or 6 elite quests. You know, it's basically an open world dungeon, and
Yeah.
you just go through there. You get a million quests done. They take forever. And then you turn them all in. It's, you know, part of that whole hinterlands, turn 25 quests in at once, get all that dopamine and get like 3 levels out of it. But yeah, the Gentha Allure is one of the archaeology dig sites, and it's troll archaeology specifically, which is what the two-handed BOA Prebis sword comes from, which is what we've been talking about. I guess I should have mentioned that before, but yeah, this is the troll dig sites are going to be crazy on a PvP server, and I mean, Jinto Allure is basically set up kind of like Minas Tirith and Lord of the Rings, and like it's a very defensible like area. So this is gonna be a crazy PvP place. But I mean, I do want to like try to be efficient and like get this done, but at the same time, this is gonna be a pretty unique and like crazy like world PvP experience. So I think even that'll be pretty fun too. But the part of me that wants to like min max and be efficient is gonna like hate it, but then my PvP side is gonna love it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's pre-patch though. And then the elemental invasion thing, I do kind of think they're gonna skip it too, but I think it's unprecedented as far as I can remember that they've skipped any content so far through Classic. Like I can't remember any like little event or anything they've ever skipped so far. So I guess this would be like a new thing. Maybe they're gonna be cutting some of the fat on some of these Classic things going forward, getting rid of some of the events that maybe aren't as important, but
Maybe with the
This is the first
accelerated
time.
rate.
Yeah,
too,
I was gonna say this is the
right?
first time they have the accelerated rates mindset. So who knows?
yeah. So we should mention too, we got dates actually for everything for Kata. It's kind of crazy. So launch is going to be on May 20th. Rise of the Zandalari, that'll be phase 2. Phase 2 does not have a raid. It's just 2 new dungeons, the new ZA, the new ZG. This has like catch-up gear. I think this is a perfect time to release it. They're releasing it in July, so presumably somewhere around 6 to 8 weeks after Kata launches. I think this is a great time to release it because this is content that it's technically its own phase, but it's just a little something to like kind of bridge the gap between phase 1 and Firelands. So throw this out there after most people have already cleared the raids or they're far into them. Throw that in. There's a little bit of catch-up gear in there. Gives you something else to do. There's some new mounts. The new Panther mount, pretty good. And then we're gonna get Rage of the Firelands, which brings like new dailies. Obviously, the Firelands raid, and that I expect that'll be one of the most hype parts of Kata. Phase 1 raids are fantastic. I think Kata starts off with a bang, but Firelands, personally, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. I never got to play it back in the day. I heard really good things about it, so especially like Rag. So this is the thing I'm most looking forward to. But Firelands will be coming out in October. So we're gonna have another like 3 months after the Rise of the Zandalari comes out. So that does put us somewhere around 5 months from phase 1 launch to Firelands release. So I mean, we'll get the raid probably 10 days after launch. So that'll be like May 30th, I think. Phase 1 raids will come out. So that'll give us somewhere in the like 17 to 19 week probably range for phase 1 raids. So that is within normal phase length. Typical phase throughout Classic has generally been 16 to 20 weeks. There have been a couple outliers that have been a little bit longer, like Nax, and now ICC, I guess, too. But I mean, that seems fine for me. There's plenty to do in phase one, and they're giving us the ZG, ZA stuff a little more quickly, too. And then finally, we're going to get Hour of Twilight in January. So this one seems like it might be a little too early because that's like 3 months after Firelands. So this is potentially like 12 weeks after Firelands comes out, which seems really quick because, like I mentioned, typical classic phase 16 to 20 weeks. So that would mean we had like TOGC for like, I think TOGC was 15 weeks. So we could potentially have Firelands for like an entire month shorter than we had TOGC, which feels bizarre. But I mean, like, I kind of think Firelands should be at least a little bit longer, but I'm kind of okay with the longer or the quicker content pace too, because people get bored pretty quick. I'm not really one of them, but the people around me that I want to raid with generally get bored a little quicker. So keeping it quicker for them so they stay interested longer, I think is a decent idea. But yeah, Riyani, how do you feel about this content pace they're planning?
I'm generally in favor, but I do think that the Firelands timeline is maybe a little bit too quick. I generally don't enjoy, keep having things on farm for forever. But with that said, I think there are a ton of people that are still going to be either, just killing Rag Heroic by the time that it's time to start the new phase, or some a little bit more casual, still heroic guilds are probably going to struggle to even get it down during the phase, which honestly to me is fine. I feel like that's the way it should be. That's not everyone should clear the content unless they put in the work. But that being said, that's not really the classic mentality. Everything should be clearable, and then it becomes about getting the loot and getting everything on farm. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. The phase one I think is super fun. It's really nice to have such different settings for the tier. The Throne of Four Winds feels so different from Bastion of Twilight, and Bastion of Twilight is a very, very different feel, both encounter and environment-wise from the Blackwing Descent. So I'm really excited about phase one. I think it's gonna be fun, and it's nice that we have a bit longer of a phase, especially so you can level up some alts and gear some alts, stuff like that. And then yeah, Firelands gonna be fun as hell. A little bit worried about the pacing for that one maybe, but happy that they're not spending another a year in Dragon Soul like they did the first time around, or a year and a half, whatever it was.
Yeah, totally forgot what I was gonna say there. Sorry. Hando, yeah, what do you feel? Where are you
I
feeling
feel
about
it's
this?
a good time. I feel it's a good time frame. I'm with you guys with the Firelands thing because I think Firelands was a great raid. But I think they're seeing some success in SOD in the way that they're doing it, that it just makes sense for them maybe to do these faster content patches, or it gets us caught up to retail or whatever their plan may be. So I'm okay with it, but I also am not like a diehard Cataclysm fan compared to some other expansions. Like I love Mop, and I loved Wrath of Lich King, so I'm gonna be sad to see that go. But I'm also happy that like I don't have to do ICC for 20 more weeks or whatever. So that's how I'm feeling about it. But it's interesting to think about like in different guild senses, right? Riyani was mentioning that like for the more casual guild and stuff, you may be stuck in heroic, just in rag or any other fight even, right? But as a GDKP guild leader, I find it hard to like wrangle people to go to different locations to do these raids. So I think in Firelands we're gonna have an easier time, just because it's in one location. Whereas like phase one, it's different locations. Sure, the scenery and stuff is nice, but like it's hard to like wrangle people to want to go to those extra places. Like, oh, can we do this boss tonight? Can we do that one? And then you have to prioritize which one you want to go to first and stuff like that. So, or whichever order, right? The priority may be. So, I think that'll be an interesting dynamic. I know that's not necessarily like linked to what is going on or the time frame, but I know that time related at very least, right? Like it definitely creates some chaos within at least a GDKP guild from my perspective. And that could be the same for many other guilds, not just GDKP based, right? So
Yeah,
I can
that's
see it
a
being kind of going both ways with the GDKP though, because you'll have on the one hand it'll be like kind of how it is now in Wrath of the Lich King, where you have a GDKP and you run ICC, and you also have in mind to do Ruby Sanctum, but then 3 people leave, and you don't have to worry about dealing out cuts and finding new people for the new raid and traveling and all of that. But also at the same time, especially when it comes to GDKP, it's kind of nice to have the option to be able to just do the one raid. If you are strapped for time, I'm thinking like, okay, I don't have time to do ICC in a GDKP, but if I had time to do 6 bosses or 2 bosses in Throne of Four Winds, then that may be something that I would be able to sneak into my schedule, which is kind of a nice thing.
that's true. That's true. Especially if you're running like multiple alts and stuff and you're just after one
Yep.
key item or whatever, right?
Yep.
My guild does run on a GDKP system, but it is more of a niche like guild, right? Like we're not just getting random people out, so it's definitely different than the average. So I feel like that might hit us a little bit harder because we will be able to pug, but it definitely is a little harder because it's just the way that our loot is, set up, and it has been for years now at this point.
Yeah. Speaking about loot, I think one interesting thing about the accelerated cadence is that in Wrath of the Lich King, we would go into every phase with full pure BIS, all classes. And if you only have 3 months of violence, you're not going to have every raider having all the rag trinkets and stuff like that. So I think that has some pretty interesting and fun implications for the coming tier, and maybe make things a little bit harder, which I think is fun during progression.
Yeah, we did our resurgence project, and you can definitely tell like the difference in the DPS like scales and stuff of players. Like it's not that our ability wasn't there. Us not coming into the phase with full BIS made a huge difference. Like only having 10-man gear, or even accelerated a little further. We had the lucky defiler system. If we didn't have that, we would have been totally screwed. It would have been like super rough. So I think it will definitely create some cool dynamics, and maybe even force people to go back to those raids more so than they have in the past.
yeah, a lot of interesting points there. Especially like the Ruby Sanctum thing. It is weird to like think about because like so many people just don't even want to go to Ruby Sanctum once you're like done with ICC. But it's like they're fine like killing Heroic Lich King, but as soon as it's like Ruby Sanctum, like you have to change location. Like they don't want to go. It's weird. So that's an interesting thing I hadn't thought about for like phase 1, that people are gonna be like, oh, now we gotta go to wherever, and there's like 3 different raids you gotta go to. But yeah, but I think they were talking about giving us more gear too, at least in 25 man, so maybe that'll alleviate some of the issues getting more geared before the next year comes out. But I guess we'll see. And also, since we were sort of talking about it a little bit already, they did say that the raid lockout system is going to be boss specific for Kata. So if it seems like how it's going to work is like if you kill the first 4 in 25 man, then you could kill the last 4 in 10 man. I believe it in original Kata it only worked on normal mode, but they may be expanding this to like both difficulties. So I guess we'll have to see on that. Um, Also, just what Riyani brought up earlier about like not everybody should be able to like clear all the content. I completely agree with that. And with like a normal and heroic version, like you already have two different difficulties for bosses. I think if you have a normal, like if you have a regular mode and a hard mode, and everybody can clear the hard mode, I think your system has completely failed. Like, why would you have a hard mode if everybody can clear it? The entire point of it is that it's like the next level up that not everybody's gonna be able to do. There's just this like weird expectation in Classic that everybody should be able to do everything, which like why is there a normal mode then? It feels weird to me. But yeah, tangent. Yeah. So on the next just for the Cata pre-patch, they mentioned originally that Insane in the Membrane was no longer going to be available in Cata, but it's still available in retail to this day. It just changed a little bit. I think like the Chandrilar rep got removed from it, but you can still get the title. So they later on removed this from their blue post that had said it was going away. So it seems like there's nothing weird going on. It will still be there if that is something you were trying to get. We mentioned earlier too a little bit about like realm consolidation and free transfers. There are new ones that just came out this week. So if you are looking to like move to a different server, check the blue post for that, and you can maybe find the server you're looking for. There are lots of options, but notably one of the main servers I play on, Grobulus, has no transfers to it and no transfers away from it. So to me, this feels really bad because it kind of just seems like Grob's gonna have a really slow death, but is ultimately gonna die. It's just gonna be very slow, very painful, because we're not gonna get new players and we can't go anywhere else. So it's just this weird limbo. So I would definitely like to see them pick a lane, like either kill the server outright now or give us transfers to our server to keep it alive. It feels weird to not be doing either of those. Hando, you play on Grob a lot too. What do you think about this? Like, how should they handle this?
I don't know exactly the answer, like what's the best way to deal with it, but they should do something. It's a great server. It has been since I've been here, and the Discord, each server has its own, Discord and stuff, and I'm part of the leadership part of it because I have a guild and I'm a leader of. And someone mentioned, oh, what would they do? Like add PvP servers into Grobulos? It's an RP PvP server. I came from Herod. It was a PvP server. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's an issue with like putting these two things together. I think people harp on the RP side of it too much, and I think I even got on the RP bandwagon more so that I'm here. And I was like not necessarily forced into it, but I was able to see the culture, right? Like we have Grobapalooza and stuff. Like this is unique to the server. Like to be able to have something like this and then destroy it, I feel like is just not good for the community in general for WoW and like its lineage and stuff like that. Just it feels like it's killing one of the largest RP servers, if not the largest, or like I don't know. It's just it feels weird that they don't have an option for us. I mean, I would say hopefully just add us to the list of things you could move to. But I mean,
that seems like
there's a
the
better option,
obvious like move, right? Like
yeah, because I don't want to go. I don't want it to go.
Yeah, I don't want Grub to go either, but like I mean, you gotta pick something. It's like this like middle ground where they're like, we're not gonna give you transfers away or to this server. Is like, I mean, we know that just slowly kills a server. When especially when these like realm consolidations are happening, and we're going into an expansion where like a lot of people are like rerolling horde and stuff. Like I already know a lot of Grob guilds that have like transferred to Fairlina and stuff, and like like just pick something. Like it's crazy. And like I originally came from Fairbanks, which was a PvP server. I got a free transfer to Globulus during BT phase of TBC. Is just a regular PvP server. They gave us a transfer to it, so that shouldn't really be an issue now because they already did that in the past. And I mean, if Fairbanks didn't get that transferred to Grob back then, like Grob would probably be dead right now, I would think. So like this is something that has worked in the past. Like just do it again. Give us, another influx of new players.
Yeah, I think it's in a weird situation too that like you almost create a state where people would rather quit than replay, right? Because you've created yourself, even like you've created like this huge community of your own characters and professions and things like this that you just don't want to, like, some people don't want to shell out the $120 or whatever it ends up being, you know what I mean? Like you're having to move, you're moving one character and you're like, okay, this is cool, and then you're like, no, I got to move this one and this one and this one because you have special attachments to these characters. And I think it's like a fluke, you know what I mean, to like an oversight really from the devs to not do anything here. But maybe if we go back to Omni's point, the first question, why don't we just do cross faction and cross realm rating or whatever, right? Just, I think that would probably solve some things too, right? Then you get to pick your home and still get to raid with people you like wherever they are.
Yeah, I
Probably
mean,
it's probably the best solution thinking about
at,
it.
at that point, your server is really just like the economy you're a part of. It doesn't really matter, in terms of rating and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just a weird situation because like it's just gonna end up being a bad experience for a lot of people, and then they're gonna quit. And I mean, like you can't like reasonably move your characters. Like asking people to, spend over $100 to like just play their characters on a different server, like that will actually have enough players to, raid with and everything, is just an unreasonable ask, I think, for especially for a game that already has a sub. Like it I hope they just forgot about Grob and this wasn't like an intentional choice because this just feels bizarre. Hopefully they'll remember us.
Yeah, and I think
The
it's,
the big the biggest
sorry, go
thing
ahead.
is that they haven't mentioned yet is Grobulus legacy status because of the Barney 64 videos. You can't have that go anywhere. That's some good history right there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Grob is rich in history, and
Mhm.
just like the weird things that like happen on that server are just like fun. Like I remember
Yeah.
when I first transferred to the server, I was on at like 2 a.m. and I was just sitting in Orgrimmar. Some dude walked up to me, put a fish in the trade window, and was like trying to give me a sales pitch for this fish. And like he was just RPing as like a fishmonger, like trying to sell people fish at 2 a.m. Like there aren't really too many servers where that's happening. Stuff like that happens on, and like it's hilarious. It makes your day because you're like, what the hell is this? Like this is ridiculous.
Wow.
And just like stuff like that, like I love about Grob, just like the random stuff you encounter. And it would be a shame if it went away because it's just a unique experience. It's not quite like any other server, I don't think.
I think something has to be done sooner rather than later, though, because I found even with my server, and I'm sure it's the same with like Fairbanks, that a lot of people had transferred off to like Fairlena or wherever other home they were going to, and then they were like, "Oh, free transfers are open," like 2 weeks later for the guilds that stayed, and then some of those people were like kind of regretting the decision to go to Fairlena because they could have had the free option of going to like Grobulus or one of the other servers, and that kind of lost even more people from our servers that could have been there, friends and just random people or people that you'd see every day, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but even in like TBC, like you'd see that one guy flying on the Ashes of Lard, and you're like, oh, that's Sammy. I know Sammy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. And then you have to worry about things like character names too, right? Like maybe you don't get Riyani in one of these new realms, right? You got to put an accent or whatever over one of these letters, and you're like, God dang it, this
Oh
doesn't feel the
God,
same.
that's the worst. Then nobody can
Yeah,
message you.
yeah. I don't know. At least they added the copy character name feature in I think in TBC or Wrath or something. That was nice. in the little drop down menu when you right
Yeah,
click someone.
yeah. It's a game changer.
Yeah, biggest change probably of Classic. I take it.
So real quick, we'll go over a few of the things that are going away in pre-patch. Kind of skipped over this one, but Blizzard put out like their official list of like some of the things going away. Swift Zulian Tiger, ZG Tiger Mount, ZG Raptor Mount, ZG Pet, which I've been finding out a lot of people don't actually know about this, but the little raptors in ZG, they drop a pet, the Rizashi hatchling. It sells for, on a lot of servers, around like 4k gold right now, since it's going away soon. So if you need some gold, this could be a solid gold farm. If you want to collect all the pets and you don't have this one, it will be going away. Just kill the little raptors, especially if you're also farming the raptor boss. Just while you're there in his room, there's like 18, 20 raptors, something like that. Just kill them while you're there, see if you get it. I just got one tonight, actually, while I was doing that. And then the Toma Polymorph Turtle, if you want that. Actually, they say it will still be available through other means. It's on this list, though, so it's a little deceptive. I'm not sure why it's on this list, and then they're like, actually, this is still there. But and then the TOGC mounts for Immortal, those will be going away if you want those. And Memoron's Head and Invincible's Reigns will drop down to 1%. So they're sort of going away because, like, I mean, getting enough people to kill these bosses is going to be kind of tough in Kata, and then you're going to have to roll against those people for a 1% drop chance, which lowers your chance even more. So if you really want these mounts, make sure you get them now, because they're going to be really, really tough to get once Kata rolls around.
Or some of them impossible, like the Zulian Tiger. Or,
And some,
I mean, I guess
some
black
of them
market,
impossible.
black
yes.
market at auction house eventually. But
eventually, yes.
Let me ask a question to both of you, because I'm a huge like transmog, and like I used to like to collect and retail before I kind of quit on that. Do you ever hope that they merge these two things together so that you can get those things that you never had as like a child, or back in the original version of the game? Like, are you farming that Swift Zulian Tiger now because you didn't have it in your original list? Because that's what I did, and it's not in hopes to have it. I just thought it literally was like the coolest mount ever. But it would be nice, right? Like if I now have it in retail, because I never got it in retail. So
I don't think merging is a good idea.
Scarab
now
Lord.
right, because in retail now, if you have Swift Zulian Tiger, if you have the Scarab Lord mount, you're big dick. But in Classic, everyone has it, so it will lose a lot of its charm. It will be nice for your personal gain, but you gotta keep something sacred.
Yeah, I just wondered if they'll do it right, because it feels like a lot of people are like holding on to that hope. So,
Really?
I feel like they are. The people that I talk to, at least, about it.
Yeah,
I'm impartial. I'm impartial because I play Classic more than I play retail. Right, I play retail very little.
Yeah.
I just really like the way that the mount looks. I'm glad to write it. I don't care how many people are writing the Zulian Tiger. I just love that thing. It was a goal for me in Classic, and I've achieved it. So I'm happy about that. Just any way it goes from there.
Yeah, just kind of depending on how far they end up going with Classic. I think this could be a possibility down the line if like Classic were to get to a point where it like caught up to retail. Obviously that'd take many, many years down the line, and we don't know if this is going forever. Maybe they stop after MOP. Who knows what they're gonna do? But maybe they do it. I don't know. But if you guys paid attention at all to right before Dragonflight came out, the whole thing with the MOP mount, trying to remember the name of it, but it was the Cloud Serpent, Heavenly Cloud Serpent, I think. It was like a 1 in 8,000 drop chance or something. But when Evokers, the new class, got added to the game, they forgot to like give them loot on this world boss. So the way the rolls worked was like one of the only options for them to get loot on this boss, because it's like a personal loot thing, one of the only options for them to get loot as an evoker was this super rare mount. So it increased the chance of getting the mount from like 1 in 8,000 to like 50%, just because they forgot to add evoker loot to the boss. So all those roles that normally would have been populated by gear became populated by the mount. And so everybody was just like getting their insta mount. Oh, look at the pup.
The puppy wants some screen time.
Yeah, little Milo.
Milo? Aw, what a cutie. Yeah. So like the backlash from that was crazy. Like people were so mad because they had like farmed, got this super rare mount, and then suddenly it wasn't rare anymore. Because everybody just made an evoker and instantly got the mount. By the time Blizzard fixed it, a lot of people had gotten it. The European players were very upset too, because I believe it got fixed before this patch was live in Europe, so only US players got to take advantage of this. But as sort of a compromise, Blizzard like increased the drop chance on it. I think it's a 1% drop chance mount now, up from like 0.01, 0.02, whatever it was before. So yeah, the just the backlash from that one mount, I can't imagine the backlash if all of these super rare mounts from classics suddenly got added. So
especially
probably
if
not
you
happening.
announced it after
Yeah,
after the option to get it in classic has already been removed,
yeah,
like the
absolutely.
Switzerland Tiger and stuff like that.
Yeah, if they were like upfront about it at the beginning of classic, like, hey, these are eventually gonna like carry over. Then like maybe, because like that at least gives people a chance, like they know what's coming. But yeah, like the backlash of all these rare mounts entering the game and like people not knowing they had this option the whole time. Yeah, I feel like they can't do it, but I would love the shit show. It would be very, very entertaining to me personally. As someone who's not super invested in like retail mount farms and stuff. I would just get some popcorn and watch the show personally, and enjoy my scarab mount on retail. What I was on a server where there were like 54 scarab lords, I think. So that's the only reason I got one, because it took a month for our gates to open and gave me plenty of time to get it. All right, so now we're gonna shift gears a little bit. So last year, around, I think it was right at the launch of Ulduar, maybe. China lost WoW. NetEase, the company that handles like Blizzard games over in China, couldn't reach an agreement with Blizzard, and WoW left China. A lot of Chinese players re-rolled on Taiwanese servers. A lot quit, but after almost a year, more than a year, NetEase and Blizzard, they hashed it out. WoW is returning to China. So somehow at this when this originally happened, I missed this whole Gorehal statue thing. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there's like at the NetEase like offices, I guess they had a huge statue of Gorehal, Grom Hellscream's weapon. They had a giant statue of it, and the NetEase employees like filmed themselves like smashing it to bits with hammers. And somehow I completely missed this. I think it was because it happened around the time Ulduar came out and I was really busy. Somehow I missed it. But this video is hilarious. Look it up if you haven't seen it. And I love just the difference in intensity some of these guys have when they're like smashing their hammers against Gorehal, because like some of them are just like barely kind of like tapping it, and then some of them are like swinging for the fences. They're trying to get like a home run. They are smashing this Gorehal like crazy. There are shards flying everywhere. So I really enjoyed that part, just like looking at everybody's just different approach to how they were gonna dismantle this axe. But this was like, apparently this was huge news and I missed it. But part of NetEase and Blizzard hashing it out is that they're also going to rebuild this statue of Gorhal. This is going to be the symbol of their unity. So
burying the hatchet, so to speak.
Yes, literally burying the hatchet. And yeah, so I mean, this is great news for any Chinese players. And apparently, they're going to be able to get their accounts back. All the data is like saved and everything. I think I saw there's like already into the millions of people like pre-registered for this. So this is going to be a huge influx of, returning WoW players and maybe just WoW players switching back over from the Taiwanese servers. But I don't think currently they have a plan for Taiwanese characters to be able to transfer back over to the Chinese servers. So that kind of creates a weird situation because a lot of these players like just re-rolled on the Taiwanese servers. They've been playing there for over a year. They have a pretty big investment in those characters now. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe there's a way they can like get those back over, but it kind of seems like no. But
Merger between China and Taiwan. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. We're not going to touch on that topic.
No hatchet bearing there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's great. Like more people get to enjoy the same hobby I love. Playing on the servers that are easiest to use for them. That's great. You guys got any thoughts about this at all?
I just like to mention when I saw the Gorhal video and you said there was different intensities, I thought the same thing. And it was like, to me, it spoke out like, oh, this person's been playing the game there for like years, right? And then the other one's just like an employee there. You know what I mean? Like you can tell that, oh, like hard work.
Yeah.
Not so much the work, but like the investment of time into the character too. Like, this is my character.
Yeah, I just want to talk to those guys. Like, what happened, dude? What did you lose? Yeah.
How about you, Riyani? Any thoughts of China getting WoW back?
No, I think it's cool. I saw some numbers that over 2 million has already signed up, like yesterday, I think. And then, it makes you think as well, like what would happen, like how would you feel if all of your stuff was taken away, kind of, if WoW shut down or whatever, and how much better would our lives be because of it?
Yeah, but if they brought it all back, it's like rushing back at us, like, no, why did you do this?
Yeah. After it was taken away, it would be like, all right, now I can finally do stuff. Now I can live my life again. And then they would dangle the return in front of us, and like, yeah,
the carrot on a stick.
Life that much anyway.
I think it's good though. We all enjoy this hobby. Some of us take it further than others. Not here in the cast, so to speak, but just in general, right? Like some of us do, obviously, but just in general, some people just like live and breathe the World of Warcraft. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So next up, the other huge news we got this week was WoW Remix, Miss of Pandaria. So anybody who's been paying attention to retail and like some of the stuff they've been data mining knew there was something. This was also on their like roadmap. It was Timerunning Pandemonium on the roadmap. But if you've been paying attention to that, you knew something mop related was coming, but we didn't quite know what it was. And now we have all the details. It's actually just finished a whole weekend on the retail PTR. So we know a lot about it because we've had a chance to play it. Even more things have been data mined. Blizzard has, had official posts giving us even more info. So what this is basically, it's a new game mode. It's kind of like a PvE plunder storm, but it's you're basically just going through all of MOP. Like you can do all the quests, you can do all the dungeons, all the raids. Some of the raids you can do while you're leveling, similar to SOD. And then at max level, you can do like the heroic raids. And then as you level at different levels, you unlock new raids you can do, just progressively. So like Throne of Thunder is a little bit later than like Terrace of Endless Spring. I think that's what it's called. But I played on this for a few hours tonight, right before it went down. It looks great to me. It's really fun. I'm a huge fan of MOP in general. It's my favorite expansion. Just to be clear, this is Dragonflight like classes. So like all the tuning and like combat mechanics, everything, it's all Dragonflight stuff. You're just playing in MOP. So if you played Dragonflight lately and specifically done like MOP time walking, this is very, very similar to that. They've thrown in some extra features to it though. So like you get specific time running gear, and it has like specific stats and gem sockets. And one of the big differences here is you get these gems that give you new abilities. So for example, on like a monk, I was able to get blink. There's a few abilities like that you can get, and then there's a bunch of like brand new ones. Just like procs you can get. Like I had one that like summoned like meteor shower, and then I had another like new on use one that called down a bunch of lightning, and then like sprouted some flowers that like healed afterwards. So there's like all sorts of different stuff, and it's all kind of done through gemming different things in your gear to get new abilities. But the base kind of gameplay is the Dragonflight classes and everything. One of the other core mechanics is a cloak you get that you slowly upgrade throughout the expansion or the game mode. So this cloak has every stat in the game on it, and then as you kill things, you may acquire, an additional stat on it. So you kill a boss, you might get a permanent point of stamina on this cloak. Percent XP is also something you can get on this, and the cloak, power-ups transfer between characters. So on your first playthrough, you're going to be pretty weak, and you're slowly going to get better and better. On your next playthrough, you're going to have this crazy cloak right out the gate. So leveling alts should be real easy. It's just going to be kind of a new game plus situation. Another big mechanic is the bronze. So there's a new currency called bronze, and you can basically sell anything you don't need to get bronze, and you'll acquire bronze through doing quests and basically everything. And this can be used to get transmogs and mounts and lots of other things. But there's 32 mounts available from this. There's a legendary cloak effect toy, which is kind of awesome. If you played MOP, you probably remember the legendary cloaks, and they had procs that like put, blue wings on you, or, whatever. There were a few different ones. There's now a toy from this that gives you those effects, and it lasts, I think, like 8 hours with like a 10-second cooldown. So you can effectively have this on you like at all times if you want. So pretty awesome toy. And yeah, there's like tons of transmogs, tons of mounts. It's a pretty cool game mode. I really enjoyed it. I can definitely see myself playing this a lot if it comes out at the right time. But have you guys checked this out, Riyani or Hando?
I've just been checking it out on streams a little bit here and there. I didn't play it myself, but it does look pretty fun. I'm hoping that some of the the min-maxing mechanics of like AFKing and looking for raid is maybe tuned a little bit, so not kind of as efficient experience and loot and whatnot. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It made me a little bit more excited about Mr. Pandaria Classic. Kind of looking forward to that. Playing around with the Brewmaster Monk when that comes out. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I haven't played it, but I think the implications are good, right? I think it may be a way for them to, get a feel for who likes MOP or who's interested in playing it for when Kata does eventually end or come to an end. Like, oh, are we going to continue this train or not? But I also think it's going to get more players into retail, which is, I think, good, right? Maybe some of the people that are playing Classic or whatever, they'll be like, oh, I'll play MOP, I'll try it out. And then they're like, oh, this isn't too bad. Maybe I'll do Dragonflight. Which would bode well for, things like War Within and stuff. Could just get more player base and stuff. Plus, I'm a big fan of them just making different game modes and stuff like that for more people to get into and do what they want to do in the game, because that's what an MMO is all about, right? To me, at least, is just being able to play the way that you want. And there's so many different ways to play. It's not just raiding, or PvP arenas, right? It could be many different ways.
Yeah, so one thing I saw brought up quite a bit is people thought this was a replacement for Mop Classic and thought that this meant that Mop Classic wasn't going to be happening. And this was like kind of the future of what Classic was going to be, is this remix thing. As far as I can tell, this has nothing to do with Classic. They do mention that these characters, you can bring these into the next expansion. So once this game mode ends, these characters just convert to like standard characters. And they mention like all the mounts and, transmogs and everything go to your like retail account and everything. So this seems to me just like kind of a event to, get people excited to like level characters for War Within. And people who haven't played retail in a long time, I think this is really targeted at them too, because as somebody who hadn't played much retail in many years and like just started in Dragonflight again, it is really overwhelming. It's like crazy how much has changed. Like, yeah, as a player who's like, I've played WoW a very long time. I've been playing WoW for like 20 years, but haven't played retail as much in a long time. And I didn't know what I was doing. Like it took me forever to even learn like kind of the basic stuff of like how I'm supposed to like get new gear and like where I should go at different levels and everything. And I think this event just kind of creates a really easy on ramp for anybody who's like in that boat where they haven't played retail in a while, but like maybe they played MOP back in the day or whatever. But this is just a very like condensed area. Like you can only be in the MOP zones, like you don't get to leave them at all during this game mode. So it's very structured and like there's a very clear path of like what you're supposed to do. And then as you play through it, you learn kind of how the Dragonflight classes play. And then at the end of all of it, you're going to have this character on in Dragonflight and shortly after that War Within. So to me, this whole event, it has nothing to do with like what they might do in the future with Classic. It is all about just a fun way to get people excited to be like playing retail and getting characters ready for War Within. Yeah, I don't think Remix is like a replacement at all for Classic. Like there's no MOP like class tuning or anything. This is just a different thing. I do like that they're doing new stuff like this, but I fully expect like MOP Classic to exist next year, after we get through Cataclysm.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign that they're doing stuff like this and Plunderstorm. They're just, out of the comfort zone, seeing what works, right? Maybe it's part of the Microsoft situation, but it's good. I think it's a step in the right direction, right? They're being super transparent with things like exactly the months for Cataclysm. And then they're giving us more content than ever, right? Like every time we come onto these podcasts, it's news. So it's a good time. It's a good time to be a WoW player.
It's a real good
For the first time in
yeah.
history, I feel like I can't keep up.
Yeah, the pace is crazy. I mean, that's another reason I think this has, nothing to do with like classic players at all. Is I mean, on top of all the other things I mentioned, but like this whole thing looks like it's gonna release around the same time as Cataclysm. So like I want to play this, but it looks like it's kind of gonna release at a terrible time for me to really check it out, because it'll probably be either during like Cata pre-patch or like right around Cata launch. So at that point, I'll just be playing Cataclysm. So I'll have to like catch it sometime down the line once that cools off a little bit. But yeah, I think this is 100% just a thing to get more people playing War Within. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of all the news we were going to talk about for this week. We've been going for a while already. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to cover before we get out of here?
Not much for me. I'll let Riyani speak in case he wants to say his piece before he leaves us here. It's been great having him as a guest. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's been great being here. Obviously there's I think we could probably talk for hours more about things like we haven't touched on stuff to do during pre-patch and on all of that stuff, preparations going into the expansion and all of that, which I think is another thing that you could probably talk for hours about. But it's been great being here. Our the baby boy here is probably gonna need to go out and do his thing soon, so won't drag on forever.
Absolutely. Yeah. We might even, get you back on soon to talk about even more stuff because yeah, I feel like we could just go on about Kata stuff forever between the three of us probably. But really,
Probably.
yeah, really appreciate you coming on, and it's great to get your insight on everything. I've been loving your videos. It's awesome to have more creators out there, and specifically even like tank creators too. So uh, let everybody know where they can find you.
Right now, I'm keeping it strict YouTube. We'll see about what happens in the future with whatever streaming and other platforms. But you can find me on YouTube at Riyani Wow. I do a bunch of Cataclysm stuff. We'll have a bunch of prepping for Kata, things you can do, things you can do at launch, and I try to keep it more niche to the sweaty community. Being a 99.9 logger and all of that, got a reputation to keep up. But yeah, no, but check me out whether you're a casual player or a hardcore player. I'm sure I'll have something for you from Cataclysm.
Awesome. So for me, as always, you can find me at Twitch or YouTube, Subtle FW on each of them. Hando is
Hando Games.
maybe starting to get some
I'm
stuff
gonna
going.
be so I'm gonna be doing. I've decided I'm gonna be doing some transmog stuff in Cataclysm, like competitions and stuff like that. So I think it'll be fun for the cosmetic side of things, right? Like Asmongold was always holding like the transmog competitions and stuff. So I think that would be something that would be pretty fun, and I'd love you guys to join me, and show off your transmog. We'll see how we do. Or show your
Hell
collection,
yeah.
your Zulian Tigers if you ever get one, Riyani, and your Swift Versace Raptors if you ever get one. Subtle, you can show them off there.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be fun. That I would I'd love to do that. Yeah, so that's everything for today, I think. We'll be back next week again. Again, thank you to Riyani. That was awesome. Thanks so much. And see you guys later.
See you guys later.
Ciao.